If you're a beginner in real estate, I think you should buy crappy deals. I'm Ross, been investing in real estate for 15, almost 16 years now, flipped 300 houses, own 150 rentals, and I'm going to tell you exactly what a crappy deal is, why you should be buying it. There's actually 6 different reasons I think that you should start or begin your career with crappy deals. I'm also going to tell you the 3 big skills that's going to allow you the time to be able to build that's going to help you through the rest of your career. So first off, what is a crappy deal? Well, here's the thing, is I get deals at probably 50 to 60% of the price that most people get. And it is absolutely the difference maker on whether you're successful as a real estate investor or you go broke. But it doesn't have to start that way, okay? What you need to do when you're first starting out is gain skills. So a crappy deal, there's basically 3 ways to get a house. I guess 4 ways. So the 4 ways to get a house, number 1 is what everybody knows, and that's through a real estate agent, a realtor, okay? These are far and away the crappiest deals because if you just think about it, it's a supply and demand issue. So why do you put your house on the market? It's to expose it to the biggest pool of potential buyers. And when you have the biggest pool of potential buyers, the biggest demand for the supply, which is your house, you're going to get the price pushed up more than in any other way. So the whole key to being a successful real estate investor and getting good deals is to narrow the demand. You make yourself a smaller market, which would be by number 2, going through wholesalers. So wholesalers, they have less of a list. They have a list of potential buyers. It's of course not as much as all the people that look at Zillow or the MLS, the multiple listing service, every day. And so the demand is a little bit smaller. However, the best wholesalers, they get really big lists of really good buyers, people who want the types of houses that wholesalers are getting. Therefore, their demand starts to go up pretty high. Therefore, the prices start to go up pretty high. And that's where you see these $20,000, $30,000, even $40,000. I've spent $100,000 on an assignment fee to a wholesaler before. It was on an apartment complex, but still huge fees for these guys because they have created more demand by getting more buyers. Okay, so the next thing that you could do is you could go direct to seller. Okay, now you become a market of one. The demand is you. The supply is the house, the seller that you're talking to. Maybe they're talking to a couple other wholesalers because basically what you're doing is you're cutting out the middleman by going direct to market, by sending mail. Talk about this all the time. That's what you need to be ultimately getting to. But that's not where we're starting. Remember, that's what today is about. Finally, the last way is, I would say, auctions, like foreclosure auctions and such. We're not going to really talk about that. It's a kind of a different deal. Okay, so what do I mean by a bad deal, a crappy deal? I mean that when you start out, you should buy through a realtor. Okay, now you are going to pay closer to market rates. Like the reality is that when somebody like me or other investors are going out, let's just say this house is, it's going to be worth $300,000 at the end. So you use the 70% rule. This is not exactly what we use, but 70% rule says that house, is $210,000 is the acquisition price minus the rehab. All right, so that's the 70% rule, is 70% of the after repair value, what I think that house would be worth after it's fixed up, 70% of that minus the rehab amount. My gosh, can't read that. But anyway, minus the rehab amount, let's just say it's $50K. So minus $50K, $160,000. That's what I should pay for that house. That is a good deal, okay? 70% rule is not perfect, but it gets you in the right ballpark. I know I should be paying $160,000 for that house. What's going to happen to the market, if you go buy this house on the market, here's how they're going to be trying to sell it, is they're going to say, hey, it's worth $300,000 when it's all said and done. They'll probably say it's worth more than that. And they're saying, okay, we think it's going to be a $50,000 rehab. Actually, they'll probably say they think it's going to be a $40,000 rehab, but let's just say that. And they're going to say, okay, so that house is worth $250,000. And it's like, okay, well, did you account for the risk that I'm going to take? Did you account for the time that I'm not going to be able to have it in use, in service, making money as a rental or a flip? Did you account for the work that I'm going to have to do? I want paid for all of those things, and that's what happens. That's what you get paid for on the 160. Did you account for loan interest fees that I'm going to have to be paying while I own this thing? And so that's usually what happens. Now, there are strategies to get good deals or better deals on the real estate market itself. And so you'll probably be able to utilize some of those, and maybe you beat this price down to, let's say, like 210 to 220. Okay, not a great deal, right? So why am I telling you that you should buy a crappy deal like this? Well, there's a few reasons. Okay, for one is, like I mentioned, what I want for you is that you gain skills that you put into your tool belt, and those have a compounding effect. You might not make a whole lot of money on your first deal, okay, but the key to being successful in business is not necessarily that you make these big swings, that you stay afloat long enough to be able to see around these corners, to have more skills in your tool belt, and then the wins start to compile for you. So the key is to not get taken out of the business. So I see a lot of people who they buy what they think is going to be a home run deal early in their career. I did the same thing. You know, I just kept doing bigger and bigger projects, and eventually you get burnt because you have bitten off more than your skills allow for. And that's exactly what happened to me. Lost a lot of money. Luckily, I was able to stay in the game because really my back, you know, like just did a lot of work myself and such for a long time. And it was very painful and stressful. I didn't have a family at the time. And if I had, it would have probably been impossible to do what I did. Slept on job sites for years. And that's not what I want for you guys. All right. So the key is that you want to, of course, buy properties that are a little bit above your current skill set. Okay. So that way you're always pushing yourself, but you don't want to take these humongous leaps. All right. That's where you're going to get yourself in trouble. So I'm saying that you need to focus on your first few deals, gaining certain skills. And here are the skills that I want you to create and want you to really focus on these first deals. And that's why we're going to buy a quote unquote crappy deal. Got my whiteboard over here, so I wrote down some notes. One is to learn your buy box. Okay, I'm not going to go into each one of these things in great depth, but I'm going to highlight them because I've made like full videos in depth on these. Practice, whatever I was saying there. It's comps. You want to practice comping properties, and you want to get really good at it. And these two kind of, they go together, as you're going to see. And then you want to work contractors, okay? Work subs. That means recruiting them and actually getting them onto job sites so you can get used to working with them and get used to talking to them. All right. In my free, for now, school community, links in the description, a lot of people ask me, like, can I say this to contractors? You know, this contractor like didn't do what we agreed upon. I feel like I need to pay him, or I've already paid him in advance. And they're like, can I say this to the contractor? I'm like, yes, absolutely. You can say that. You can say, hey man, you didn't do what we talked about doing, so I can't pay you until you do X, Y, and Z. You could absolutely say that. And you know, once you're in the pocket for a little bit and get some reps actually conversing with contractors, you're going to get more comfortable with that. So that's what you want to do on these first few deals. And I'm not saying to be an a-hole. Okay. I'm saying that, as a good leader, you need to set clear expectations, and then you need to stand your ground. So if you set those clear expectations, or their general expectations of the industry, it is acceptable for you to hold your ground, and you need to hold it very hard. Okay. 3 skills: buy box, comping, working contractors. Buy box, basically, this is the prerequisite before anything happens, is you need to understand what types of properties that you want. Okay. And remember, we're going to get to the real reasons why you should be buying crappy deals. I got a whole list of them over here. But the buy box is basically deciding, are you the type of person who flips A-class properties, does like, some luxury, maybe like even super A-class, luxury, high-end, high expense? Are you a B-class type of flipper? These are like what I call Walmart properties. These are like middle of the road. This is my personal sweet spot. I'll maybe touch on why a little bit. And then there's C-class properties. These are like, rougher areas of town. They're cheaper houses. These are what I'll buy for rentals a lot of times because the price is lower and the rents are not as much lower as the prices. Therefore, the profit margins on the return on your investment in rent money is better, but it's a longer term play. You got to deal with a lot more crap, but if you're in the business, crap is what you deal with anyway, so you might as well get paid the best for it. Okay, and it's the safest in my opinion. All right, so the B-class properties, if I'm really looking to flip a house or even as rentals, I'm always looking for B-class, and what that means to me is basically it's like the median house price, sales price here in Chattanooga, where I'm at, is around $320,000. All right, so to me, the B-class property, the Walmart property, is going to have an after repair value of right around that median price, or maybe plus 10 to 20%. So like $400,000 or below. That's the after repair value. And the reason that I like this little sweet spot is you can have steady, what it's going to sell for. So you have a lot of good comps in a B class in the median range, and you have so confidence in the sales amount. I have consistent profits. You can usually get pretty good deals there, and the houses aren't beat up so much, whereas C-class properties are really beat up a lot of times. And the final thing is, if things went bad on me, I was planning on flipping it and I had to rent it, a B-class property can still have a nice return for you. Okay, I'm not going to go into depth in this video. I go into depth in a lot of videos on why that is. But the point is, every property you buy has to have the backbone of being a strong performing rental. Otherwise, you shouldn't buy it, in my opinion. And that is why I don't buy A-class properties, because they don't work well as rentals. So all these guys that you saw out there saying, oh, well, this works great as an Airbnb. Okay, well, when Airbnbs stopped working, okay, for instance, here, they took the permits away. When it stopped working, they were screwed. They didn't have any backbone to stand on. It was just a bad investment at that point. So rentals have been around forever, gonna be around forever. So I want to make sure that that spine is underneath my business, foundation underneath my business. All right, so buy box. What type of property are you buying? A-class, B-class, C-class. Now, you guys that have seen my other content know that I have a buy box cheat sheet. It's in my school community in the downloads. And basically, you're looking at location, what neighborhood you're in, property type, property class. You're looking at the size, which, most neighborhood, once you pick the location, kind of all these things are going to be solved for you. Neighborhoods have the same class of property. They have similar size properties, and you just want to make sure that you're not buying outliers from that. Age of the property is going to be similar. There's going to be work level. Okay, that is a little bit different in your buy box. Are you the type of person that does like structural damage, needs mechanical, electrical, plumbing, MEP work done? You need to gut the house, or are you the type that does cosmetic stuff? Okay, this video is about when you're starting out. Definitely need to be doing cosmetic stuff. We're going to get to all that. Style, whatever. Neighborhoods have their certain style. Price point, same as class. And then school district is another point that you need to look at. So those are the 9 points of the buy box. And then you need to practice comps. That's the next skill that you want to learn by buying this crappy deal to start, to give yourself time to do these things. So you practice comping. You're not going to buy the first property that you look at. You're going to look at lots of properties. And so what you're going to do is every one of them, you are going to figure out what the after repair value is. If you've watched my content, you probably know where I talk about this line of livability. Okay, so here's the line, the threshold of livability. Everything to the left of here is non-livable. Maybe some people live in them, but they shouldn't be living in them. They're not livable houses. And then there's everything over to the right. Now, this threshold is really important because when a house is livable, a bank will give people money to buy the house. If a bank gives people money to buy the house, it becomes a consumer product. And once you pass the level of consumer product, the price increase is there's a step up in value. Okay, the only people who buy to the left of this threshold are people like me and you who want to get a great deal. Okay, but when you can get bank money, you're selling to consumers. So the house becomes truly monetizable. All right, so that threshold is really like a safety point here. All right, but inside of this scale of livability, there is what I call the range of comps. Okay, these are the nice houses, the ones that have been fixed up in the neighborhood. That is the price point that you're going for. When we're talking about ARV, when you're talking about comps, you're talking about this range of comps here. So you have that section, and then you have, what I call barely bankable. This is like your grandma's house that got built in the 50s, and it's, had wallpaper, had like old Formica countertops, and it still has all that crap. And that is a barely bankable house. Bank will give you money. You can live in that thing, but it needs some cosmetic work. So, moving a house from barely bankable to range of comps is a cosmetic renovation. All right. So over here you have, I call this the slumlord, and then I call this the bombed out section. We're not going to talk about that stuff because today we're only talking about barely bankable to range of comps. But basically what you're going to do when you're buying these properties or going to look at buying these properties is you're going to figure out what the hell is the range of comps. What is the house going to sell for after it's been worked on? Okay, so your buy box is kind of defined for you already because it needs to be a barely bankable house. Otherwise, you can't buy it. Okay, because you're going to use bank money to buy your first house because it's the safest. That's the theme of this whole lesson, is that buying a crappy deal gives you the access to get bank money and gives you time, gives you safety, instead of what a lot of investors do is you turn on the fire hose of borrowing other people's cash to buy deals that have a really big renovation aspect to it. And there's a lot to learn right there, guys. It's taken me 15, almost 16 years now to learn all these things, and I'm still having hard lessons, okay? Still. Every day I get phone calls of bad crap that has happened. And of course I have 20 projects going on, so bad stuff is going to happen across those, and good things happen as well. But the point is, I'm still getting surprised by things. Okay, so you're going to get surprised. There's no amount of videos you can watch that stops you from getting these surprises. All right, so barely bankable house to range of comps. And you're going to be learning, okay, what is that house going to sell for? Why is it going to sell for that much? What is the renovation comps that I need to do? Is it Formica countertops? Is it butcher block? Are they getting granite? What does that cost? Let me make some calls to see what stuff like that costs. Do these houses need mechanical, electrical, plumbing updates? Do they need LVP floors, or is this like a hardwood floor type of neighborhood? A-class. No, hopefully it's an LVP, B-class, Walmart neighborhood. You get the idea. Those are the things that you're going to be learning, and you're going to start to gain instincts for. So, I have these lists of like the buy box is 9 steps. I had to spend, a couple hours sitting through and thinking, okay, when I go through this, what am I actually looking for? Because what happens is over time, you build intuition. I don't go through this freaking list every time. Sometimes I reference it to make sure I'm not missing anything. And of course, now I have my AI friends to help me with it. But the point is, no, I look at a property and I know whether it's a deal or not because I have 15 or 16 years of intuition. How does that get built? It's one comp at a time. It's one buy box at a time. It's one project at a time where you're dealing with contractors. And that's why I'm saying I want you to buy this crappy deal because it's a safe deal. Might not be a home run, but you're not going to get knocked out of the game by buying a deal like this. And you get to start building that intuition that is going to have a compounding effect and is going to keep serving you throughout your entire career. And everybody who is here probably knows how much I believe in real estate. Okay, so finally, talking to contractors, I think, is pretty self-explanatory. Of course, you're going to get reps in talking with the contractors. You're going to get some experience there. Where are you going to find these contractors? Listen, you got a cosmetic job, so you don't got to be worrying about permits. You're not going to need to be worrying about having like a mechanical, electrical, plumbing guy. You only need one contractor to do this, and it's basically like a handyman typer is what I call an all-arounder. Where are you going to find these people? You're going to go up to Home Depot or Lowe's if you're one of those, or maybe you're a Midwesterner and you're a Menards person. I don't know. But the point is, you're going to go up there, you're going to look for the guys that look like working guys, that have calluses on their hands, they got drywall and paint on their jeans, they're driving like white work vans, not stupid wrap trucks and stuff. White work van or a white work truck that is in fair condition, not brand new, not a rust bucket. Rust bucket means they might be a crackhead and they might take all your money, okay? Or they just won't finish the project. And too nice means they're marketing and you're paying for it. Okay, so something middle of the road. These guys are probably not going to be licensed. However, licensed meaning they're not going to be a general contractor that can go pull permits, but on a cosmetic job, you're not going to need that. But they are going to have like the prerequisites, which is they're going to be able to they're going to have a business set up, so their business is going to be legit, or they're going to give you personal identification. Maybe they're a sole prop, and they're going to give you a certificate of insurance, general liability, and workers' comp, or a workers' comp exemption, and then they're going to fill out your tax paperwork. Okay, so that is the three things that you want to learn, and I just want to go through a little bit more why you want to buy a slow deal to start. So number one is because it's slow. Okay, things start moving fast, and you want to do everything you can to slow it down from the start so you can learn, you can internalize this stuff and start to gain that intuition that we talked about. And then the other part of slow is what I'm thinking about is a lot of people are going to go out there and get hard money loans, which I'm totally for it. Okay, I do the same thing, but the fire hose gets turned on. That means that every month you're paying high interest, so you got to know what you're doing, and you can't really stop it. But if you go get a bank loan to buy these properties, you get the time, you get like a reasonable mortgage payment that you can pay. And honestly, if it's your first flip, I think you should do a live in the house flip. If it's a possibility for you, some of you with families, it's not a possibility for you. But, we're talking about one extra mortgage. So, it might be where you have to make some other cuts in your personal budget, but you can find a way to cover that payment. Okay. You're not going to be broke if something bad happens. Right. And you need to make sure of that. You need to get your crap right personally before you go biting off something like this, and work fast to do that. Next is inspections. All right. This is a really big one. On buying a house on the real estate market, what you're able to do is you get the house under contract. And so this is basically the thing. You're looking at houses, right? This is what the timeline looks like. Looking at houses, all right, you're looking. This is where you're learning comping, you're figuring out your buy box and all that. Now you offer on the property. Okay, there's probably going to be some back and forth on the offer. I want to buy that house for $210,000. Sorry, I ain't taking less than $240,000, and I want this credit off of there, and I want this closing time, and I want to use this title company. That's the back and forth. But eventually you get your offer accepted. After you get your offer accepted, there's the inspection resolution period. Okay, and realtors out there, I might be saying the wrong names. All I know is these are the points where I go negotiate with people to get what I want. Okay, you can call it whatever you want. But there's this inspection period here. This is the inspection period. This is very important. Okay, and this is the inspection resolution. So what happens in this period, and in the offer section, you set how long that period is going to be. Somebody selling their house wants that period to be as short as possible. Somebody who's buying the house wants it to be long as possible, because I get the opportunity, go in the house, look at all the things, bring in professionals to look at all the things. So, now, and just so you understand, when you're buying from a wholesaler, you're most likely not going to get this opportunity. And if you're buying direct to seller, you're probably not going to get this opportunity. Maybe you do a little bit, maybe you negotiate it, but like one of the big powers in going direct to sellers, you can say, hey, I'm not going to do any of that crap. Okay. Like people do when they go to market. You're not going to have to deal with any of those headaches. So you really don't want to do that. And that's why it's like the more experienced thing. I can go look at a house one time and I know everything I need to know. You might not have that intuition right away. So starting slow with a realtor gives you the option to have this maybe 7, maybe 10-day inspection period where you call in a professional inspection company. Maybe you call in somebody to do sewer scoping to see what the sewer line looks like. You call in usually you call in that first inspector, and they're going to suggest all these other inspectors. They're going to say, well, I can't see the sewer line, so maybe you should have this professional come in. You might spend $1,000 on inspections on this thing, but you're going to know that there's no landmines waiting for you, or at least you're going to minimize the amount of landmines that might get you. You might have mold inspectors come in or whatever. And here's the thing, is you find all these things. So you're like kind of building a scope of work already. You find all these things, and then you go back and you say, hey, I found X, Y, and Z. It's going to cost me, however much money, because you've had the opportunity in this inspection period to get contractors in there to tell you what it would cost. And you say, sorry, I can't buy the house at the $230 we agreed upon because I have an extra $30,000 worth of work that I didn't know about. So I'm going to need to get it for $200 now. And, sometimes you end up getting it. All right, after this, there's other stuff like a financial contingency, making sure your mortgage gets closed and such. But for the most part, that's the big one, is the inspection resolution. So you've moved on from that. Now you're good to go. But also in that inspection period, you're going to be able to bring in not only the contractors that are associated with the inspection that you did. These might be specialty contractors, but you're also going to be able to go get the guy from Home Depot or Lowe's or Menards if you're from the Midwest. And you can bring in your contractor guy to give you a bid for the cosmetic scope of work. Hey, I want to do floors. I want to do paint. I want to change out all the hardware in this house. And then you get prices from them. And if you're a newbie, it would probably be beneficial for you to get multiple bids. Okay. I touch that subject lightly because I really hate the idea of get 3 bids for everything, because I know that I'm wasting 2 people's time, and I hate wasting people's time. But it is true that you might get a bid for $20,000. Next guy comes in at $12,000 for the exact same work. Okay, so you have to start building the intuition, and I think that it's a totally reasonable thing to do. What I don't think is very reasonable is if you get a bid, you're basically using somebody to give you a bid just to work against the other guy. That is a tool that you could use. Some people use it. I don't like the use of that. But anyway, that's not for this video. Okay, so slow, you get the chance to do inspections. You get the chance to do multiple bids. You get to mitigate the potential pain points, the potential landmines. You get an easy start with a bank loan, something that is safe, something that is manageable for you instead of that fire hose. And guys, it's all about starting. Okay, you could watch these videos for years. Okay. And you get all the information you want. I know I'm just as much a victim of this myself, as I want to learn everything I can about a subject before I do it. But the thing is, when a year of video might get me to a 60, 1 month of just doing stuff, try not to cuss on here, gets me to an 80. All right. So it's all about taking massive action, but being smart about making sure you're doing it in a safe way, not putting yourself in a position where you're going to get taken out of the game, because it's all about staying in the game long enough to see around the corners. This is the safe way to get started. I want you guys to get started. If you want to learn more, I have a free for now school community linked in the description. If you don't want to do that, or you're already there, check out this other video. See you guys soon.